everybody. Welcome to Matt Connerton Unleashed. I am your host, Matt Connerton. It is the television edition. It is Wednesday, November 4th, 2015. And, of course, we are live, unless you're watching us later, because we do upload the show and make it available on demand on IPM Nation on both our YouTube and our Vimeo channels, usually by about 9 p.m. Eastern. But if you are watching live, we'll invite you to participate in our program today. Of course, you can call the number on your screen, or we do have the chat room at IPM Nation, which I will be monitoring. And we like to get a lot of interaction when we have a really great guest, or I should say, friend of the show, Dr. Kevin. Dr. Kevin, you have friend of the show status. You're on that upper level.
Oh, my.
You're in a very exclusive club of like, I don't know, 7 or 8 people. Maybe more like 10. The show's been on a long time. You're a friend of the show.
I was going to say, how long has the show been on?
Let's see. Unleashed launched in 2011, and the television edition, I think, we started in 2012.
And the first
Maybe?
time we were on air was when?
Oh, I met you back when I first started as Norm's co-host on Norm and Friends. So
Yeah.
that would have been like 2000. Wow, the time. 2007? 2006?
It's 2006, I think.
I think so.
6, 7, somewhere on there.
Well, I was his co-host for 7 years, and I was no longer his co-host as of about 2 years ago. So
9 years.
So 9 years.
So 2006.
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
I was right. Do I get a prize?
I'll give you all the change in my left pocket.
Okay, which I'm sure that means your left pocket is empty.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
Who carries money anymore? We all have debit cards now.
I was going to say, it's you. There's never any money anyways.
Hey, you got a lot of moxie, mister.
Hey, I do. I got my Moxie. I brought my Moxie to drink on, and you know, it's so funny. You don't like Moxie, do you?
Dr. Kevin, as I said to you in the green room, you've got to be the youngest person I know who actually consumes and enjoys moxie.
Well, you know, Moxie is distinctive. It's different.
Is it because you're from Maine? Or you lived in Maine? You're not from Maine.
Well, actually,
you spent a lot of time there, right?
Actually, I was brought up in Maine.
Oh, you are from Maine. See, I get confused with
Yeah.
your geography. You've moved around a lot.
I have moved around
Very
a lot.
confusing.
You know, it's very funny because I'll get back to the Moxie comment in a second. But when I sold my house in June in Phoenix, Arizona, I realized that I'd been there for 5.5 years, and that's the longest same address I had had since I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've moved around a lot.
Yeah, I have moved around a lot. But, you know, the thing is I like Moxie. I don't drink soda a lot, actually, interestingly enough. This was on sale, and I did myself a little tiny bit of a treat, knowing I'm doing your show, and then and after your show, an hour later, I'm on Norm's show for 2 hours. And I said, you know, but the whole thing with Moxie is, you know, Moxie is for people that have got courage. Mm-hmm. That have got, you know...
You got to have courage to drink that stuff.
Well, you know, that aren't afraid to be different. That aren't afraid to go out there and, you know, be a bit acerbic, maybe. I like the flavor. I've always liked the flavor of Moxie.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you want to talk about somebody being full of Moxie, you're talking about somebody who's full of courage.
Okay.
And willing to take action. And willing to stand up against what's popular. It's not Coke. It's not Pepsi. It's not even Dr. Pepper. It's Moxie.
So that's why you drink it?
Well,
or do you genuinely like the taste of that? I don't get it.
I genuinely like the taste of it.
Have you tried battery acid? I mean, not the healthiest thing
not for
you,
drinking.
but in terms of flavor.
Not for drinking.
Okay, all right.
But I think that the important thing here is we have a world that's gone to hell in a handbasket, and we have probably the greatest number of entitled, apathetic people and ignorant sheeple and pharmaceutical zombies that we've ever had percentage-wise going around, and it's because they ain't got any moxie.
All right.
Because they don't have a courage, and they are not instilled to embrace fully who they are.
That beverage will help them to do that?
Well, I don't think that beverage, because I don't believe in magic pills.
Okay, good.
Don't believe in magic pills. I can't say that you'd become the real and true and 100% authentic Matt Connarton if you started drinking Moxie.
That's good because I don't want to drink that.
Okay. But
They do have a fruit punch flavored energy drink, which is okay. It's okay.
But also, you certainly have not been a huge drinker of the Kool-Aid.
True. When I was a kid, I liked the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, but see, and this is what happens. In our childhood, we are so often put into the cattle chute. Who do we have to be? Based on the gender we were born, the religion of our family, the financial circumstances, the part of the country, were we born long and lanky or short and stocky? Were we born athletically inclined or musically inclined? As these things, as these labels get attached to us like drill bits, like like they put on a warship to try to survive life, they deny you all the stuff that whoever your group is doesn't appreciate. I had what I called reverse discrimination in a way when I first left corporate world and went into the spiritual community. I left corporate world. I'd been in corporate world for 12 years. I had my first degrees in business and psychology. I had worked in several different companies and did troubleshooting and training and did the suits. We were talking about your suit jacket, doing the suits.
Yes. I wish I'd turn that fan on.
Doesn't he look good? It's you warm?
I might sneak over and turn the fan on while you're talking.
Okay, so just bring all the cameras over here. They won't know that Matt actually.
The camera's on you. You're the star, my friend.
Oh, okay. Well, but it flashes back to you. We don't want it to flash back to an empty seat.
No,
because then it sends the message out. God, he was so boring. Even Matt left.
And then you stopped talking. You were supposed to.
Oh my goodness. I was supposed to stop talking.
Yes, I wasn't kidding. I did go over and turn on the fan.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 degrees in here today.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I'm kidding. I'm exagerating. So about
it's only
995. Yeah.
995.
I'm not good at math. I exaggerate.
Yeah. But those labels, those limitations, and have held people back, and they have made them disavow or separate or even come to hate parts of themselves. And so that destroys self-worth, destroys self-esteem, and then they turn around and they have no passion in life or they have no joy. And I was talking about reverse discrimination. So when I left the corporate world, here I was, last company I worked for, sales training manager, American Express. I had a secretary. I had a car phone. It wasn't a cell phone. It was a car phone in a box that you had to carry out and put in, okay? And so I had, and I had an office and all this stuff, and I left it all to go back to my spiritual roots and do what I realized I was called to do, that I was born to do, which is the work I've been doing for the last almost 26 years now. And in that, Matthew, when I went back and when I entered the spiritual community, because I was practical, because I was pragmatic, because I asked questions like, well, if I do an event here, how are we going to market it?
Right.
And how are we going to set it up? And what are we going to do? And stuff like this. I was treated like the Antichrist. Oh, you're affecting my aura with all this negative questioning.
Because you wanted to treat it like a business?
Yeah, because I wanted to treat it like a business.
Yeah. I see the same thing happen a lot with, I've done a lot in the music industry, and I see that with musicians who, or at least in certain genres. You don't see this in hip-hop. In hip-hop, they embrace commerce. But a lot of musicians are afraid to look like they are running their careers or running their whatever it is they're doing, whether they have a band or maybe they own a record label or whatnot. It's almost like you don't want to look too much like you're trying to run it like a business, even though common sense would tell you you have to do that. If you don't do that, you don't survive.
Yep. Well, and the funny thing is, and I see it in the artistic community, I see it in the New Age community, you see it sometimes in the human service community in a way, of there is faintly distinct nauseating martyrdom of I am above money.
Right.
I am just here to heal, to paint, to sing, to serve people.
Right.
Okay? The world works around money, whether we like it or not.
Right, right.
We don't have to like it, but you know what? I don't like the idea that, of most of our presidential choices. But guess what? Me not liking it is not going to change the reality that one of them could get elected.
Right.
And I might have to expatriate. But, it's that step out of reality.
Yeah.
And coming into the spiritual world, and, you and I were talking about this a little earlier, one of the first things that I was called was the most practical, pragmatic spiritual person that you'll ever meet. Now, the funny thing is, the reporter that was working with me thought it was fabulous, but the spiritual community thought that, again, I was the Antichrist. How dare you be practical and pragmatic? That makes you one of them.
Right. Right. And then because there is this idea that if you, and I find this so strange, and you'll probably agree with me on this idea that, for example, if you have,
now I won't. Go ahead.
If you have some sort of gift, like if you have some sort of psychic ability, that you can't ever use that to make money with it, that's somehow wrong. And I've heard people say that, and it's strange to me, because by that logic, if you have anything about you that's different, any sort of specialized talent or gift or ability, what if you're just really good at math? Should you not be a scientist or an accountant,
an actuary, or
or anything like that? Because you have this special gift. You happen to be particularly adept at math, and that's wrong to try to earn a living with that.
Well, I think that I might be able to get on that bandwagon that they shouldn't get paid a living for being full of charismatic BS when it comes to politicians.
Right.
Because that's a natural gift I find that exists in most of them, that they just are naturally charismatic bullshit.
Can't say
BSers.
Yeah.
BSers.
Yes.
I self-edited.
Yes.
But we pay them.
Yeah.
We pay them. The corporations pay them. The lobbyists pay them. The mob pays them. I mean, they get paid in spades. Mm-hmm. Hearts, diamonds, and illegally.
Yep.
So but anyway, but back to your gift thing. I remember the story. I don't know. Do you have heard of Edgar Cayce, right?
Name's familiar. Who is that?
Edgar Cayce was called the Sleeping Prophet. He had more accurate prophecies than anybody else in recorded history. And he was called the Sleeping Prophet. And he lived from the 1880s till about World War II.
Okay.
During that time, World War II. And he would do these healings. He would do this remote information. And they have tens of thousands of prophecies he did in that time period at ARE, Association for Research and Enlightenment. And because his stuff was so well documented, and he made sure everything was documented again and again, things that he said was going to happen in 20, 30, 40 years. So he has, 80, 90%
Wow.
of what's actually come to pass that he referred to or warned about or said about.
Why do they call him the Sleeping Prophet?
Because he would go into a sleeping state.
Okay.
And do the prophecies.
Okay, as though he were in a trance state?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they called him the Sleeping Prophet. So,
okay.
So Edgar Cayce, so when I first started getting involved with psychic stuff and the New Age metaphysical, though, as you know, my grandmother talked to me about my psychic stuff when I was 4. Mm-hmm. But when, as a teenager, I started actually consciously playing in that field, one of the things that happened is that a couple of different times I got compared to Edgar Cayce, and I didn't know who he was. And so then fast forward 10 years, I'm working in the corporate world, and I end up with a job in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is the home center of the Association of Research and Enlightenment and Edgar Cayce's materials, right down the road from where I was living. Imagine that.
Yeah.
No coincidence, no accidents. So in my spare time, I went and was hanging out there, and I met a woman who's called May St. Clair. And May St. Clair was literally the last living person that had ever had worked with Cayce.
Okay.
As somebody with the association. I think I think his sons were still alive at that point, but this was the last team member that had worked, and she had worked as like a secretary assistant to Casey. And she was in her 90s at this point, because Casey died in 42, 43. And so
Okay.
I'm talking that I was there in 1988,
Yeah.
So when I was there and I was looking at some stuff, she stopped by my table, actually, and said, "You have Edgar's eyes." And so when she said that I had Edgar's eyes, she sat down and she started talking to me.
Right.
And so one of the things is that so she started talking to me, and we talked a little bit, and I said, I've struggled before whether I should charge with this gift.
Yeah.
And she asked me, and she goes, Edgar struggled with that his whole life, and we had many conversations with it. Because he would get paid sometimes for his services, and sometimes he would just give it away and try to make a living other ways.
Yeah.
And she asked me, she said, "Who is your favorite singer?" And I said, "Barbra Streisand." She goes, "Do you think that Barbara's voice is beautiful?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Would you say that her singing is a gift, that she's a gifted singer?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you think it's unfair that she gets
Right.
paid for singing?" And I was like, "No." "Do you buy her albums?" This is still in the day of albums. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely. I got every album she ever put out there."
Yeah.
"Do you feel that's wrong?" And I was like, "No." "So you have a gift like Edgar had a gift.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid for the time that you spent to develop the gift and the time you put into doing the gift, and you're getting paid for your time. And the value of what's in that time is
Right.
the value of the gift."
Right.
And so that was the end of the discussion ever again for me.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
had to do it again. What I did find out was May never talked to anybody anymore. Never met with anybody, wouldn't do any interviews.
Really?
She had this office, she'd go in, she'd work, she'd study, she'd only talk to people who were doing stuff in Edgar's, like officially doing stuff for the foundation that would want to talk to her about certain clarifications or things.
Yeah.
But she had become somewhat a recluse in a way, and like I said, she was in her 90s at
Sure.
this point.
Yeah.
That, and everybody was, like, when she left, I had like 2 or 3 people come over and said, "Do you know who that was?"
Oh, no kidding.
Because I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know who she was, actually.
Yeah.
She came over and she started the conversation with me.
Oh, that's wild.
So, yeah, and I always remember that, and it's funny
Yeah.
because one of my early newsletters, papers, I did that story.
Yeah.
That was one of the articles I did about doing the gift. So, yeah, I can't disagree with you. I'm trying to figure out how I can make it a disagreement because you said I wouldn't. I've been really struggling here.
You want to be the contrarian so badly, but that's okay because you got a lot of moxie.
I do. I've got a lot of moxie. So,
You got to ask you a question though. Now, when you left the corporate world for the spiritual world, you mentioned you had a secretary. Was she attractive, and if so, would you have stayed? That's what I really want to know. I ask the important questions here, Dr. Kevin, as you know from having been on the show. My razor sharp interviewing skills.
I had a couple of women that were in my office that were attractive. I would say one, a girl named Marion that I actually wrote a poem for,
Oh,
was very attractive. And that would have had no interest to make me stay.
you wrote a poem for her?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's you are an unusual boss.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody that ever worked for me in all of my history,
Yeah.
since I first started managing people at the age of 18, would ever disagree with the statement that I was an unusual boss of some kind.
Right.
And but by the time, let me see, since I ended up in Virginia Beach because my significant other got promoted there and was also in the company, and he and I were very open about our relationship. I don't think any of the women had any issue being affectionate, cuddly, open, and vulnerable with me.
Right.
Because they felt really safe.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that might have been a wrong choice, and I'm not saying that it was or wasn't a wrong choice.
Right.
But when you're the boss's husband, yeah. So I had pretty good relationships with them.
Yeah.
So, no. But I write poems about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you and I've got another poetry show coming up on 12/3.
Okay. Yeah, we should mention your show, of course, the Dr. Kevin Show.
The Dr. Kevin Show. The Dr. Kevin Show is on Ohm Times Radio, changing the world one ohm at a time.
Which is your slogan, not
My
theirs.
slo-
We
yeah,
should
my slogan,
make that
not theirs.
clear. You came up with that.
I came up with that. I like it.
Yes.
I have to talk to Christopher. I really think he should I think he should really adopt it.
Because the official slogan of Ohm Times is changing. I almost said your slogan, but it's not it's your conscious connection. Maybe they feel your slogan is too wordy, and that's why they don't want to go with it. It is a mouthful. Maybe you put it in parentheses underneath your conscious connection, and then in parentheses,
changing the world,
or maybe
one ohm
ellipses
at a
or
time.
something. I don't know.
I mean, it can be done. It can be delivered if a person knows how to actually deliver.
Yes.
Then it can be delivered in a way where it does not seem lengthy, but it is actually captivating. So yeah, that may be why they're not using it.
What if you say it like really fast, like change the world one moment at a time?
No.
Does that lose something there when I do?
It's got to say changing the world one ohm at a time.
So if you say everything fast except the ohm, like change the world one ohm at a time.
Yeah. Well, you still can't want to say. I mean, though I've wrote patter poems before.
What's a patter poem? I don't know.
Well, it's like a patter song, like they have on Broadway. You're not a big Broadway person.
No.
So. Well, what it is it's stuff that's written, that is written to say almost so fast that you barely can keep up with it. It's like a race. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there was a song in a Broadway musical called "Another 100 People." It was like another 100 people just got off the train to meet 100 people who just got off the plane who got meet 100 people who just got off the plane maybe yesterday.
Yeah.
So there's like
right.
And so I wrote this poem about that, and I did it on the last poetry show I did, which was a patter poem about pretentious people.
Yeah. That must have been fun.
And I just went through it really, really fast.
Yeah.
And then, I can probably find it.
Well, we don't want to put you on the spot.
Nah, I don't care.
Well, while you're looking for that, we should also mention, of course, too, the series that we're going to be doing.
Yes, I want you to bring up the series we're going to be doing while I'm looking for this.
And that is going to, the debut will be, of course, next Thursday.
A week from tomorrow.
At 8 p.m. So that's, actually, let's give the exact date because I'm just going to glance at my calendar really quickly because as I said, a lot of people don't get to see this live and they watch it later online. And so we don't want to confuse anybody. So that will be Thursday the 12th, November 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live online. And we're going to do the first one on YouTube. And the first one will be free of charge because we want to be able to expose everybody to what it is that you're going to be talking about on the series. And Intuitive Insights, is that the right title?
Yeah, well, we talked about that. That's what we were going to do. We were going to do it Intuitive Insights with Dr. Kevin. It's going to be you and I. We're going to be discussing any number of different spiritual, like I was talking about practical and pragmatic. A lot of times, either you have your very hardcore, and I did a Periscope and my morning coffee yesterday on religion. And some of that's starting to come in, the feedback, the comments, even when I was doing the Periscope live.
Yeah.
You know what Periscope is,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. For those who don't know what Periscope is one of the new hot social medias. I think it's interesting that you see Deepak Chopra doing it a lot. Les Brown. There's some people that are really kind of. There are some people that are really getting into it.
Yeah.
And so you tape it. It's live streaming. People can watch it on a replay. It's connected with Twitter. It's a Twitter extension. And so it will, if you do it, it tweets, but you also, people will just, it's like a voyeur.
Oh.
Yeah, to me, it's like being a voyeur. Is people from all over. Yesterday I've had people come in and listen to it and greet me from Russia, from Italy, from Japan. You never know who you're going to get, because anybody who has access to the internet that has the app will be told if somebody's doing anything.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, you do these. And so a lot of times I do a morning coffee. And for people who are looking to get a little bit challenged, you watch my you look at some of my morning coffees. You comment on them sometimes.
Yeah.
Not enough, and you never share them, but that's okay.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that. But I actually just got before we went on air. Somebody sent me a message saying that they have my morning coffee with their tea, and it starts their day.
Yeah.
And it's a good start to their day, which I thought was sweet, because the woman's not a coffee drinker.
Oh, good.
But then I will sometimes do a Periscope on it as well. So for anybody that wants to follow any of those, first of all, my Dr. Kevin, MyDrKevin. And you can find me on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. My fan page is My Dr. Kevin. My website, mydrkevin.com. And if you want a little something that maybe is going to make you challenge, is going to make you think, is going to do one, and I'll read one on the air or here, because I want to go back to the whole Moxie conversation.
Yes.
It takes a lot of courage to be yourself today. You are not encouraged to be who you are. You are encouraged to fit in. You are encouraged to be a cubicle kid. Mm-hmm. To not think outside the box.
An automaton.
Yep, and you're questioned. You're questioned for questioning. You're questioned for not agreeing or for challenging. You're called a troublemaker. You're called a rebel. You're put down. You're medicated. All of these things, and it takes a lot of moxie. It takes some courage. There's a whole thing that I do with people called a custom fit life, where it's like you need to have a tailor-made life. Mm-hmm. It should fit you. You shouldn't try to fit life.
Right.
It should fit you. It should be custom made for you. And that means you need to get rid of the incorrect belief systems. That means you need to understand that you are thinking things you don't even know you're thinking, because they're so old and so subconscious that until somebody with a certain level of expertise, and I believe intuitive, has to come into play, though there are people who have expertise that would say, oh yeah, it's all just logical. Well, then they're already handicapped, but they could still help you potentially, is to bring out that belief system or bring out that idea that is creating an action when you go, I don't know why I do that. Well, let me tell you, there's a reason. And until you figure out the reason, you can't change it.
Right.
But that takes courage. You may have to face up to the fact that you have been your own worst enemy your whole life. You may have to face up to the fact that you are not, and I had somebody just say to me the other day, they just looked at me and they go, I know I'm not the daughter my mother wanted. Mm. And I was like, tough. Her problem, not yours.
Right, exactly.
Why are you holding on to it?
Yeah. That's pretty common. You see that with a lot of people, adults, people who've been adults for a long time who are still kind of feel that sort of guilt, especially even if their parents have passed away, and they feel that sort of guilt about not being exactly who they think that their parents wanted them to be.
And to me, parents that mold the child to be who they think they ought to should be, they're the ones that child services should be going after for child abuse. Mm. You know, the first child abuse happens the minute we assign a gender and they decide who they can and can't be, what they can and can't wear, what they can and can't say, what they can and can't like because they're a boy or a girl. That's the first child abuse.
Right.
The second one is when you decide who they need to be because it's who you want them to be.
Right. Well, there's also, I complain a lot about the one where, kids, as soon as they shoot out of the womb, they've got their families and everybody trying to fill them with as much cholesterol and sugar-laden foods as possible, and then all wonder why we're raising generations of diabetics. Duh.
So
Did you find your poem?
I found the patter poem, and then I'm going to find my morning coffee because I do want to talk to you about religion.
Yes.
This is called Voyeur. I have to actually prepare to read
Yeah,
this.
I understand, yes.
Sideswept by sights, catching corners of conversation, unintentionally yet eagerly eavesdropping, a virtuous yet victorious voyeur. Lustfully lingering looks being balefully bad, yet dourly denying defined dysfunctions, when actually just nurturing naturally nefarious natures, but only when seeing it from society's stuffy and stalwart standards who oppose images of iron-willed icons as desirable deities instead of insightfully seeing, through their ridiculous roles and horrendous hypocrisies and pretentious pompous personages they pretend to be. Anyone got a needle?
Very nice.
Yeah, and I didn't, and I had practiced it before I did it on air because this is not one of those. So you heard me stumble definitely a couple times, but you get the idea. It's faster and faster and faster and faster, and then you go, anyone got a needle?
Right.
So, but that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I am doing the poetry show. We're doing this show, and we're calling it tentatively. We're still playing with it. It has not aired yet. We could decide on a change, but it's called
Intuitive Insights?
Intuitive Insights.
Yes, with Dr. Kevin.
With Dr. Kevin, which is interesting because I'm currently, which is something that's within my wheelhouse, but it's a wheel I haven't had on my car for a long time.
It's good mixing metaphors there. Good for you.
Yeah. You know, every now and then. You know, there's a reason why I'm a friend of the Matt Connerton Unleashed show.
But you're not. I hope you're not trying to reinvent the wheel that is in your wheelhouse, but you haven't had on your car for a long time.
Well, I did reinvent it a little.
Oh.
I made it a better wheel. Don't you think we have better tires now than we had in the 40s?
I would hope so.
Okay. They didn't. So they did reinvent what made the wheel the wheel. They didn't reinvent the wheel, but they did reinvent the wheel.
I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out how to cram another metaphor in there, and I couldn't. Yes. So I wanted to get one more metaphor in, but I got nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, so the old wheel was that back when I was a teenager, raising money for college, I did psychic readings at holistic shows. You know, like Psychics in the Mall type thing.
So how old were you when you were doing that? You were
16, 17.
So that's something you never see. At least I never see somebody that young doing that.
Occasionally, I've seen one or two people since then that have been that young or youngish.
Was that a disadvantage in any way? Or maybe it was an advantage? Maybe the novelty of seeing somebody that young doing that? I mean, how did people react to that?
Well, and I think that one of the reasons that they reacted well was because I'm very good at what I do when it comes to the psychic stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that probably sounds like I'm being wicked egotistical, but I think that you do a larger disservice to yourself and to the world by making less of who you are and what you do, as much as by making more of it. We were talking about somebody before we came on the show who might occasionally embellish.
Yes.
Okay.
He very well might, yes.
Yes, he might embellish.
Yes, which is...
This is a word that you need. You cannot pronounce it right unless you...
It's a very kind word in many instances when speaking of people.
Yeah.
Embellish and...
Well, I'm waiting...
Exaggerate and words like that, yes. Very kind.
Yes.
This is very inside, folks, but...
Yeah, well, and I have been known to be not just very kind, but every kind. I recently, anyways, there was another thread starting there. We'll get back to that. Remind me of happy birthday. So
That might be for, it sounds like that might be for a different show.
but anyway, well, it goes in this thread.
Okay.
It's a loose part of this thread.
Okay.
So, but now I completely like lost. I completely went off the train track. I got to come back. Feel free to call in or come into the chat room and let us know where we were that you were listening to that you wanted us to finish the sentence. And if you didn't really care whether we finished the sentence or not, then don't let us know, and we may not be able to pick it back up again.
Well, you're talking about people making more of what they are, not less.
More and not less of what they are. So you were asking me about the experience. Well, you sit across this kid with a baby face that's 16, 17 years old, and he opens his mouth and goes, blah, 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 and you go, there's in a way, people trusted me more. You know, obviously they never went to the musical Oliver. They didn't think kids could be scam artists.
Right.
And I wasn't a scam artist.
Yeah.
I was the real deal.
Yeah.
But they assumed that if I was doing it at that age, that it must be the real deal.
Right.
Like I
Interesting.
hadn't got old enough to become a scam artist yet.
Right.
Well, you know what? If you don't think kids can be scam artists, you obviously never had any, or you didn't pay
Right.
attention to them when they were 4 or 5 or 6 years old, because they were scamming you all the time.
Right. Yes.
I
Yes.
love you, mommy. Can I have a cookie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I have to. He's so sweet when he does that.
Yeah.
No, 325 pounds for a 5 years old is not an unacceptable weight. What do you mean? He's just hefty.
Right. Right.
He'll grow into it.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes, 54 inches tall and 63 inches wide. He'll grow into it.
You mentioned Les Brown earlier when you were talking about
Yeah.
Periscope. I've read one of his books a long time ago. Live Your Dreams, I think it was called.
Yeah.
He said something that's always stuck with me. I really like this. He repeated something that his mother used to tell him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Do you know the quote?
No, well, I know less. Go ahead.
Okay. He was talking about how his mom, when encouraging him to take risks in life and not always play it safe, but, you know, really go out into the world and go for what you want, whatever. She said, you have to remember that nobody gets out of life alive. So in other words, you might as well take some chances because the end is the end no matter what. No one gets out of life alive, no matter how safe you try to, you know, play it and be and avoid risk and all of that. You know, the end is still going to come no matter what.
There was a great thing, and it's too long, and I'm not going to be able to remember it, and I'm not going to bother to look it up, but it's one that I heard Leo Biscaglia do, and I loved Leo Biscaglia. In fact, I just recommended him to one of my clients the other day to go check up some of his work. But he did one on the person who risks and that the person who doesn't risk. And one of the lines in that, it's a longer poem, is the person that the person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, and is nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard that quote before. That is a great. That was Leo Biscaglia who said that?
I heard Leo Biscaglia read that in one of his presentations.
Okay.
I cannot verify that he wrote it.
Yeah.
My father, who I call Papa, he actually hand wrote that out with like a fountain pen, like the India ink type of thing, and did a beautiful job, very painfully writing it out, the whole thing. And he put Leo Biscaglia's name at the bottom because he had heard Leo say it.
Yeah.
And much love, Papa,
Yeah.
at the bottom. And I framed it. I had it on my wall when I had a wall.
Yeah.
That's when I had a wall. Now I don't have a wall. But it really is, it takes a lot of courage. And, you know, I was talking about my morning coffees and how I try to inspire people and I try to move them forward. And, like, yesterday's morning coffee was about religion, but I'm just going to, and you guys, I'm sure the camera's probably not going to be able to get a good sight, so I'm not going to try to show you the picture.
I hope it's not too controversial, Dr. Kevin. You know, we shy from that on this program.
I'm on the wrong program. I can go now.
We'll make a change today. We'll break our policy of keeping things very very uncontroversial.
But So I'm not going to try to put it out. You're probably not going to be able to see the picture, but if you go to my Dr. Kevin, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever, I always put anywhere from 6 to 9 pictures together into a picture.
Yes.
Yeah, you've seen that.
Yeah.
Well,
a
so
collage, if you will.
a collage of pictures. So like today I had the center of something I wrote, which is living like a leaf, going where the wind blows me, attached to nothing, life is good. And so my morning coffee today is with freedom. The thing which traps us most is our own thoughts, belief systems, and lack of faith. So Freedom's morning muse for you is an invitation. Find faith in yourself and a way of being that empowers you without disempowerment of others. Release limiting belief systems, embrace thoughts of love and acceptance for yourself and others, and then dance with the divine. And you shall not have to find freedom, for it shall have found you.
Very nice. I didn't really hear anything controversial in that, but I bet.
Well, the religion one is a little more controversial.
Oh, that wasn't the religion
that
one.
was
Okay.
today's, but that's an
Oh.
example. This was like
Oh,
an
okay.
example of a morning muse.
Okay, no, that's very
I
nice.
share
Yeah.
some thoughts. I want you to make to think. What does it mean for you to dance with the divine? Everybody feels like they're trapped, but the trapped starts here.
Right,
This
right.
is where the trap starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, what was the religion one?
I'm going to tell you that, and then I have to tell you what happened on Periscope.
Okay.
Morning coffee today is with religion. Church, temple, synagogue, or altar in the woods are places for people to come together, to grow deeper in their understanding of their God, goddess, or spirit, to gather together, to mediate, contemplate, celebrate, educate, and improve their relationship with that deity, to find peace and understanding. They are not pulpits from which to judge, condescend, hate, or condemn those who travel different pathways. Morning muse. Remember that only the ones who are truly in league with the devil are those who hide behind their God to judge, punish, hate, and even to kill, as an action being directed by their God. For their God, in truth, is their own inner demon, who has tricked them into worshiping a God of hate instead of a God of love. Where has your inner demon tricked you lately?
I like that.
So I did that, and then on one of my feeds, I think it was on my Facebook feed, somebody says, well, that's good, except for ISIS. And so I responded, and I said, yes, but ISIS doesn't represent their God, they represent their demons.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And they represent the demons that somehow the only way that they can feel good about who they are, the only way that they can overcome what they feel has been oppression, and maybe has been oppressing, was they didn't run into the arms of their God, they ran out of it. And they
Yeah.
justified it.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, plus ISIS in and of itself is not a religion.
no, but they do it in the name of a religion.
Right.
Well, but I see the same behavior in born again Christians. And I'm not saying that all born again Christians are kooks.
Right.
But I do find that the person who says, if in a conversation, they'll say, well, I consider myself, or I'm Christian, that's out there living as a Christian, that is role modeling the Christian principles of love, compassion, acceptance, helping the sick, the poor, the troubled, aren't usually standing on a desktop screaming and waving their arms about how you're not a Christian.
Right.
How bad you are, that you will burn in the
Right.
warm place.
Right.
I don't know what words I can say.
You can
in
say
that.
hell.
I can say hell?
You can say hell.
Oh, hell. Burning in hell. Burning in hell up to my armpits in sin.
What do you think of? Do you have any thoughts on this new data that's come out that now they say the belief in any sort of religious belief among Americans continues to slide? The statistic that I heard yesterday was that 9 in 10 Americans surveyed still believe in something. So only 1 in 10 considers themselves hardline atheists. But then I read we're down to 62% of Americans, it's either 62 or 63, who firmly believe in some sort of religious belief, some sort of deity of some kind. But we seem to be gradually becoming a more and more secular society. And how do you feel about that?
I don't think that the end statement is justified by the statistical data. I'm not sure. First of all, I didn't see the questions that were asked.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the great manipulations in politics is we have people who specialize in spin doctoring questions to make sure we get the answer we want to support the conclusion we want.
Yeah, Jen talks about that a lot on the show. Yeah, how the way that the question is asked, the way that it's worded, can often influence the outcome of the
question.
The
Absolutely.
poll. Yeah, yeah.
And so even when you fall into that, I've strictly spoken only the truth in the question, though a lot of times even that's not the case, but you can still say a question in a way, or write it in a way, or order the words in a way that's going to influence. So what I would say is the traditional major religious institutions, for the most part, are on a downslide. But we do have these mega churches that are showing up.
Oh, yeah.
That
we've always had them.
Are loosely connected with the religion.
Right. They're sort of non-secular. Like Joel Osteen, he's not up there. I don't know if I would even call what he does preaching. You know, when he gives his sermons at the mega church in, where are they, Atlanta? I think it's Atlanta. You know, it's sort of a secular message. It's more of he's almost like a motivational speaker, not a preacher. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he still works in some biblical undertones and some Christian and stuff and things like this. And I for a long time have said, you know, a message from God, a message from Spirit, a message from the divine, God, Goddess, Allah, Buddha, Great Spirit, the Great Pumpkin, I don't care what you call it, but a word of truth from God is a word of truth from God, whether it comes from the scream of an eagle or the back end of a jackass. It's still a word of God. And I don't buy into that the Bible is the the only word of God out there. And I don't support any kind of reality that says that it is the be all and end all and everything else has no meaning. Nor do I agree in any way, because I don't think there are nuns. I used to think they were just stupid. I used to think people that tried to say that the word of the Bible was exactly as God said it and recorded it and never changed. I just really thought these are just people that are uneducated. They're stupid. I mean, and I felt sad for them. I truly felt pity for them when there was so much irrefutable evidence of how many times the Bible's been rewritten, how the King James Version came about. I mean, it's like when the person stands in front of me and says, oh, they made up dinosaurs in order for us to shake our faith.
Satan put the fossils there to confuse us, yes.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone stuff.
I mean, I'm like, okay, this is somebody who doesn't are they mentally retarded?
Right.
Are they really unable to have an intellectual debate or a discussion that can say, and they hold to it so tightly because somewhere they don't believe that they have the capacity to live in the world if they're not told exactly what to do and think. And that goes back to that damage that I talked about, the early thought patterns and the belief systems and the upbringings,
the indoctrination.
And the whole custom fit life that I talk about for people. It's like, that they have to have the courage to take, because I've had people say to me, well, if I work with you, because for a long time I used the title spiritual coaching counselor, and they said, if I work with you, am I going to, are you going to try to give me God? And I'd be like, no, it's not my job to give you God.
Right.
It's my job to help you have a better relationship with whatever God you have.
Right.
But if that God doesn't work for you, then we fire them and get another one. There are plenty out there, and they all want converts.
Right.
You are a wanted commodity. Know your worth.
True. Yes, yes.
So, but I look at this, and I say, I don't know that we've gone more secular per se. I think there have been times in the past when we've been more secular.
Really? Yeah.
I think that we're going more spiritual, but people have lost faith in traditional religions as one of the institutions that has taken advantage of them.
Well, then I guess it may also, too, depend on how you define secular. Is secular because you could define it as being non-religious in the sense that you can be spiritual, but not adhere to a specific religion. Because personally, I don't think, and you've probably heard me say this, I say this all the time, I don't think organized religion and spirituality really have much of anything to do with each other. To me, organized religion is political. It's not spiritual. And I'll get all kinds of hate for saying that. I always do, but I truly believe that. Organized religion is about politics and locking people into a belief system. Because people use, for example, if you're politically conservative and you don't believe in same-sex marriage, well, then you can fall back on a religious belief that says, well, it's wrong because we have this book where God allegedly says it's wrong. And so it's used for, organized religion is used for political purposes, whereas spirituality is really a separate thing. And then, does secularism mean less religious in terms of organized religion, or does it mean more broadly?
See, and I would say that in common usage,
Yeah.
most people are going to associate spirituality closer to religious than to secular.
I agree. Yeah.
And so that's why I approached, is the listener of this TV show, as we're talking, are they, when you say secular, are they going to say, well, I don't go to church on Sunday anymore, but I go to a meditation group 3 times a week, or I go to the Buddhist center, or I do this. And they're going to say, so they don't consider themselves secular.
I don't know. I think that's a more ambiguous term than you would assert. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little more because I've never really thought about that particular term. In that way until now.
And I would like to hear. You see, and technically, you're right. I'm checking up. Checking it up.
Very good.
Secular, from the Latin, means worldly or temporal.
Okay.
See, but because it means worldly or temporal of the brain, I think people would say meditation is not worldly.
Okay,
Paganism is not worldly.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
Is the state of being separated from religion or not being exclusively allied with or against any particular religion. Now, and they say most businesses and corporations and some governments are secular organization.
Right.
But, they actually say, like one of the ways that they define it here, and not that this is the be all and end all, it is videopikia, so.
Yeah.
Which I think is closer to right far more than it is not.
Yeah, but, I agree. Yeah.
But they refer to prayer as something that is on the other side of secular. Mm-hmm. So again, there's a lot of people that pray, but they don't go to an organized religion. So my whole thing here is, I just want to clarify the word before I say I agree with the statement.
Sure. Yeah.
Because in my mind, when I think secular, I think of non-spiritual.
Yeah.
Because I'm an inclusionary. I believe that everybody who has a good relationship with a pathway to God that serves them and empowers them. And I was doing this Periscope yesterday, which was like 10 minutes long. I think it's the longest one I ever did. I was out at the Whale's Tail in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
With Portsmouth Harbor behind me and the boats. Yeah. And I'm just going at it, and people are coming in and they're asking questions. And, after I say it over and over again about, I will not support any single pathway that eliminates the possibility that God created all the pathways.
Right.
God created all the pathways.
Right.
and created all the people. The only one that can't play in this pool are the atheists. That's a different conversation. And somebody said, well, what about, and they said, well, I'm more into science. I said, well, science is a religion. Science started as a religion. It's, so let's not forget. And no matter what they want to say, it's still a religion. People that study at the religion of science, there is an altar. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's just as corrupt as every other altar, but it's still an altar.
We're out of time. I wish we had more time, Dr. Kevin. I'd love to continue this conversation, but of course I will be on your show, the Dr. Kevin Show, a week from tomorrow, or Thursday the 12th, I think we said.
For Thirst Quenching Thursday.
For Thirst Quenching Thursday. And then, of course, we'll be back that same night at 8 p.m. online on YouTube. And we'll make sure we get the link out for everybody.
Get the link out for everybody. Make sure I have the link. That's great. And we will do, Intuitive Insights with Dr. Kevin.
Yep, looking forward to that. And of course, everybody at home, don't forget too, of course, we have the radio edition of Unleashed. We're 5 nights a week on IPM Nation 1. And of course, every Tuesday and Thursday night, we're also on Ohm Times Radio at ohmtimes.com/IOM, where you can access the radio edition of this show and, of course, the Dr. Kevin Show as well. And Dr. Kevin will be back. If you are watching live on Wednesday, we'll be back later on with Norm on Norm and Friends from 4 to 6 p.m. And I'll be back at 6 p.m. with Gary for Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. And Dr. Kevin, thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Sorry, were you going to say something else?
No, I was just going to say my Dr. Kevin, MYDRKEVIN.
The website, yes, very important.
.com, Facebook, Tumblr, all the social medias, MYDRKEVIN.com. And I will be around at least until mid-December and available at Shaman's Dreams Gifts in the Fox Run Mall.
Oh, yes.
To do intuitive intervention sessions. Or if you think you'd like to find out how I could help you have a custom fit life, you can email me at drkevin, DRKEVIN, at mydrkevin.com.
Excellent. All right. Thank you again. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll talk at you later.